And with that being said, we're jumping into game number 1, Los Pollos Hermanos versus Vietnam Legends. Here we go, on Arabia, we will have on the left side VortiX+TheMista+LucinfroN and the Mista, with VortiX playing as the Rus in the blocket in blue. Up north, it's LucinfroN playing as the red French, and down south, you're going to have the Mista playing as the Mongols in yellow. The other side, you will have the Rus player playing in a flank position in teal for Bakhti. The pocket is going to be cool with the English in green, and up north, you're going to have ACCM as the French in purple. So it turns out that they went for that idea that we have been discussing before this set. Having the English in the pocket means that your slow-moving army is still able to help out both teammates. So that is an intriguing option. I'm curious to see if Cool is also going to play second Townsender over here, which is something that you sometimes see from English. Interesting idea. It's a little risky, I believe, but this is more about that mid-late game with the English rather than the early game pressure, because obviously, coming from the pocket, it's gonna take a little more effort to do damage early on, and we have a bit of a scuffle between scouts on the left side. VortiX nearly losing his own scout over here, Bakhti having the advantage. Bakhti also having quite a lot of sheep trailing that scout, so that has to be a good start over here. You see Mista is pulling back his Khan here to try and intercept that scout, though.
Yeah, he's getting pretty close to it. And you know what? Where the bucket almost kicked off there, but the con is quite close, like you say. He's going to take a bit of damage. And thing is, losing that scout would definitely be bad. But look at this smart play. What does the con do for the Mista? He knows what's up. He's trying to fire into the sheep and kill as much of them, as many of them as possible, just to limit the amount of hurtables that can be brought back to base. So smart here to just to limit the big expansion of the Rusa backed. And there's a couple of sheep that will be falling. Not too bad. Limitations slowing down, but more scouts have already been brought up for Rusa backed just to make sure that he can get his hunt and his bounties up and ready. Already at 135 and growing with an extra wolf down. 145. He's going so fast.
His bounty looks indeed pretty decent. As you could see, Mista picked off quite a lot of sheep carcasses. Now, fun little fact, there is actually a trade icon on the carcass if you select the carcass from the perspective of the player that owns it.
That's
That's
true.
that's like a completely weird and unnecessary bug. We have no idea where it comes from. And you even have a completely random hotkey slash button over here that is
Hey,
just
yeah.
non-existent. So
Unknown activation. What is that? What they turn it into a zombie? I want to see that, dude. Zombie sheep at AoE 4. Let's go. That's the future. That's the future that we all want.
all right, at this point, we have a 150 bounty for Bakhti. The other Rus player, VortiX, is sitting on 205 already, so slightly better start over here for him. His hunting cabin is also very nice, trickling in 23 gold per minute, and he's already aging up with Golden Gate. School of Cavalry for LucinfroN, as expected. Same thing for ACCM. And for Mista, despite the fact that he could technically do some damage with the Mongols if he wanted to, he decides to go for the slower paced approach, and you see he's not adding any army at this point. He added a pasture, so he's gonna have some extra sheep to work with, which is much needed given the fact that he's almost out of food underneath his town center, and he only has 3 sheep trailing his Khan right now.
Vortex and back just to keep an eye on the roost right now. They're very close in terms of their bounties at around 290 for Vortex here, 295, and for back days at 320. So really keeping up with one another. That's pretty good to know that they're pretty much equal. A bit slower on the Golden Gate build up here for backed, but overall pretty darn good. Backed keeps on with collecting the food source, and you know what? Having maybe the Roos in the center and Vortex, it's giving them the space to age up, not being contested. Maybe it'll allow them to start massing horse archers a bit earlier. Always something that you have to keep up with. Those small early game advantages that, as we get deeper and deeper in the game, might not have as much of an impact.
And we're seeing Cool going for this slower style English play. We have seen him doing this before, and the idea here is that obviously in the pocket you are facing less pressure, so you have your time to build up your food eco, and we will see that food eco kick in with the farming, and this has multiple consequences. First of all, he doesn't need that much sheep, so he can donate all of his sheep to the French player, meaning that the French player doesn't necessarily have to go for professional scouts, although ACCM still decides to do that. But the more important thing here is that the English farming eco, this will last forever. So this is already going to be a great source of food for him, giving him like 265 per minute, and this is only Dark Age. Once he gets to Feudal Age, his food boost will increase. And ultimately, it's a much slower play than what you would see from the English playing in the flanks, but it's going to pay off because if he's not getting harassed, his economy is going to skyrocket, and you see there is villagers being sent to stone. Cool wants to play a slow English game play and just go for double town centers.
Yeah, definitely so. So, what happens here with our yellow? Nothing happening. And it kind of slow on it, keeping up with the hunt here for back as his bounties are accumulating as well. VortiX is a bit ahead on that point of view as pretty much everybody is hit Feudal Age right now. This is when you're going to start seeing all that mass up. And actually, a lot of outposts have been built up around the golds for pretty much everybody at this point, just in case there is an assault somewhere in their base. And I'm wondering if this is the time for Roos to kind of start, building as many scouts as humanly possible, just to pull in deer back home and continue on with their eco boom.
Acti tried to use his initial scouts to do some harassment on the base of Mista. Mista now going for horsemen though to combat that. He only has early horsemen right now, no standard horseman upgrades on it. But as things stand, Bacti is gonna get forced back, and now we could see an interesting approach here from the Mongols. Playing horsemen means that he's gonna have a lot of mobility. Those horsemen are really fast, especially if you pop the Khan speed arrow. And one thing that you could do with those horsemen is try to limit the amount of carcasses that Bacti is able to pull in. I don't think you can really slow down that fast castle that much, but if you can limit the amount of carcasses, then he's gonna have to start adding villagers on berries if he isn't able to bring in that many. Meanwhile, on the other side, Asim is ferrying in deer, as you see a couple of knights popping out from both French players. As you said, towers are coming up for both. They know exactly how important those gold mines are. But I think the biggest beneficiary of this entire thing is Cool. The fact that there is not a lot of aggression going on right now means that he's gonna have an easy time getting that farming eco set up and getting that second town center rolling.
All right, in the meantime, there's a bit of a fight breaking out in our base here up to the north in a red for LucinfroN. A couple of scouts have tried to penetrate his defenses, but it don't matter. He's got Royal Knights to do the work and clean them up. And again, outposts are being built up just in case. You want to keep that gold. And we talked about this over the past couple of days where, golds for French players, they get pushed in, especially by Mongols, and they realize, hey, now I can't really produce any knights, and their early game suffers tremendously because of it. That Khan keeps on running behind the scouts, and the Rus are in trouble. Once now the horsemen are able to catch up to them with that maneuver arrow, they're going to have a pretty darn good time. And LucinfroN is also flanking around with his own knights. A lot of pressure here for the early game, and those scouts might all be in trouble. Already one going down, second one down too. And the last one is just praying alive on a prayer back to his teammate's base here up in the ACCM in the purple. But that scout might just be dead. No, he survived with just a sliver of health. But it might be for naught. Maybe a lot has been lost in this time, Lito.
I love that play from Mista. You see that the amount of carcasses that Bacti could bring in were very, very limited. He still has some scouts working, but obviously wanted way more carcasses than that. And really just a couple of horsemen were able to do the trick. The difference between the horsemen and the knights right now is that the horsemen are much faster, so it's 1.88 as opposed to 162 speed. So the horsemen, while they do less damage, they can catch up and just kill those scouts. Looks like Mist is also crawling up at the tower. The scouts will be dispatched to deal with that villager, but you also have some Mangadai over here. I don't think you can keep this villager alive here for Mista though, so that's gonna be a small victory for Bacti on that side.
Yeah, at least something that they can be happy with in that exchange. But actually, here's what's going on in the green base. There's Cool that's trying to defend here. They know, at least in this case, LucinfroN, that, hey, majority of the longbows were out of position that went up to ACCM. This is the slowness of the English that you were talking about before we got into game. Maybe that could have been exploited a bit better, isolating those longbows or maybe isolating the base itself and going for some eco damage. But here, you're not really able to find anything out of it. Knights are going to dash in. Two of them are going to go down and maybe some more. Is it worth it for the trade here in the longbows? There's quite a few in the back that are not being pushed. And maybe in third knight will go down. No, not just yet. Pulled back, and no, he will go down. Oh my. That's 3 or 4 knights that have just been taken out. A fifth one might be added to that tally. That
Uh,
push did not really end up doing much.
in fact, it did very, very little. It looks like the
Oh,
knight is actually able to get away with 1
oh my.
HP.
Oh, the
So you can
dream.
heal that back up. But as you said, this was a disaster for LucinfroN. He lost a lot of knights for nothing. And now if you look at Kuo's economy, that is just an absolute crazy boom. Kuo's at 675 food per minute. And that's going to be there forever. It's not like the carcasses for other players that will be depleted and then they will have to start adding farms. Kuo is in a very, very good position right now. Mista, unable to get the tower up at Bacti's base. Mista has been basically playing a separate 1v1 here with Bacti, playing with Horseman and Mangadai. We have seen this style of approach work out in 1v1s against Horse Archers. Lancers and Mangadai is a very nice combination. Lancers absorb the arrow fire and then the Mangadai can just pursue all of those Horse Archers. And so far, Mista is doing an excellent job denying all the relics from Bacti, which is just a gigantic task. Being able to deny a lot of carcasses and relics from the Rus player is like an 11 out of 10 performance so far from Mista.
But bringing in the longbows probably is a good idea in this case. They're tankier than you would think in this position. They're actually clean up with that extra range. Mango dies very effectively. That's the big weakness in the Mango die. Like, yes, they can shoot while moving, but that range is not so great. And right now, yes, they outrange longbows by 1, but the moment they come in and try to do a bit of work, longbows are immediately firing at them. And longbows' biggest disadvantage is how slow they are, but they can rotate back to their base if need be. And there might be a split here to go up and defend that purple base that is being pushed. ACCM is being dived in, and that whole outpost is full of units all around it. And the Horse Archers from the Rus of the blue of VortiX are coming in, trying to eliminate the knights. Already one has gone down with the scouts right in front of it. More scouts coming in from LucinfroN to help in this early fight, trying to destroy the outpost, putting pressure on the purple of ECCM, but forcing the fight under the TC might not be the smartest decision here. And more longbows coming in to rally for Cool, just to push back the red side. ACCM just has to stabilize and keep his knights up to max and not lose too many of them. That was 3 players diving down into him, but not a ton of damage was done with the play.
Exactly. The bright side for VortiX's team, though, is that Mista is doing an unbelievable job controlling relics. Just for reference, Bacti's still at 0, and he's been up to Castlage for a long time. VortiX was able to pick up 3 relics already, and I think he's bringing in some additional ones. So, Mista's play basically gave a massive edge to VortiX here, and now VortiX is leveraging that, trying to push the base of ACCM. Pool has a great economy, but the flanks are collapsing as we speak.
Yeah, definitely so. And again, that slowness of longbows might come in to put them in the rear. They cannot be in so many places so quickly. And that's the power of the Horse Archer. That's the power of the Mangudai, especially when you combo in some extra Royal Knights that are being brought in by the French of LucinfroN. Also having some Mangudais from the Yellows, pretty much already done his work here, the Mista. So he can fall back, he can be happy and continue with his eco to keep on booming. So all is good in that spot. But look at the amount of longbows that are now being put up. You do not want to leave them alone, and there's that speed, or the lack of it. Like you say, it's opened up the entire base. So many villagers have to fall back into the TC that's now pretty much full of vills. The White Tower has to be left alone at 1500 HP, and the base is being swarmed. Good eco or not, those vills will not survive for long. And LucinfroN is just cleaning up shop. Everybody's sitting into the TCs. Let any fire that you want. They're not going to survive for too long. Yeah, there were some losses here and there for LucinfroN and for VortiX, but that was great eco damage to Cool, who's been a linchpin here in the defense.
Exactly. You are seeing that lack of mobility show up right now because all 3 players now from VortiX's team, 2 of which are already in Castle Age, Mista and VortiX, have mobility. They have Knights, they have Lancers, Mangadai, and now you see the moment there is no heavy cavalry component to the army of Cool over here, suddenly the Mangadai, the Lancers, and the Horse Archers jump on those longbows. I don't think it was the best ever fight out here, fighting against all those longbows out here, but they could still take it because they had the massive numbers advantage.
Look at that. Still horse archers playing around now, at least with the support of the white tower. So Cool can be nice and comfortable that, hey, I have some very good defensive structures. They're going to protect me, but what will they do for my teammates is the question. And ACCM is still in feudal age. He's not been able to advance because his eco has been constantly pushed, and he's going to start losing out on potential damage because uh, on the other side in the red, in LucinfroN, he's gone to H3. He's getting upraised. He's pretty comfortable in his position right now. In a 1v1 fights, he's going to win every single day.
And now we are seeing Mista trickling in some knights into the wood line of Bhakti. That's where things are getting ugly, because the big difference between Lancers and Horse Archers is that Horse Archers need to be kept together to be effective. As an individual unit, they don't do much. They need like a big group. Whereas you can send in 2 or 3 knights and they can work as standalone units, killing a couple of villagers. So having that option for Mista to raid the eco of Bhakti forces Bhakti to keep a fairly large chunk of Cav Archers back at home. And now Mista is also converging on the north. Wouldn't be surprised to see ACM being triple team now. He's the only feudal age player at this point, and there's gonna be quite a lot of horse archers coming in for him. Bhakti actually killed the boar in the middle for the extra bounty, so he's now at level 3. And we got some knights raiding from ACCM back at LucinfroN's base, but ultimately, the big thing is that you have 5 relics already for VortiX, only 2 for Bhakti, so the fact that Mista could harass him slowed down the relic collection quite considerably.
So what happens here? What's the next step? What's the transition? Cool looks to be adding more archer ranges, so doubling down on his longbows, which obviously makes sense. You know, you're playing English, that's the case. But I haven't seen much happening with Bhakti right now. You know, you need more army. You need to start massing up because, you know, those horse archers, they haven't been able to do much damage, and maybe it'll be time to push into VortiX's base. That's exactly what's happening. Look at the amount of horse archers, of lancers that are diving into him. It's a 3v1 in this case. And LucinfroN and the squad just keep on charging. They got burn damage with lancers and the knights if they need to. They have horse archers that will destroy anything that comes up to them, be it the few knights that are left for ACCM or his vills. And whenever they get pushed, whenever they sense, hey, our opponents are coming in, they just fall back. And finally, maybe a bit too slow, but longbows and horse archers are in for support. But I'm not sure how much this can do to repel this attack. It definitely won't be enough to completely clear it.
And with Bhakti pulling all the horse archers north immediately, Mista is moving into his lumberjacks with a couple of knights, and there has been a lot of casualties there for Bhakti. Bhakti is down to 51 villagers as compared to the other Rus player being at 55, and of course way more relics. So Bhakti has been losing a lot, and Bhakti indeed taps out.
There he is. He is out and done, and that is game 1 done and dusted. Wow, los Pollos Hermanos. They just pick apart. And honestly, this seems like the way to do it. You focus down on one player and then just deny them eco. The slowness also of the English. Those longbows, yes, they're great, but in 3v3s and open maps, they seem to be just too slow to respond, Lita.
Exactly, and really, I just want to give a quick shout out to Mista, because as much as VortiX and LucinfroN were playing good, they played pretty standard, pretty meta. But what Mista did was unbelievable. He was able to kill like 4 scouts from his opponent, limiting the amount of carcasses Bhakti would bring in. Then he was able to deny relics. Like, VortiX and Bhakti reached Castle Age about the same time, yet VortiX was able to gather 5 relics, as opposed to only 2 from Bhakti, and that was because Mista was able to deny those relics. Mista with 64 kills, 25 deaths, by far the most efficient in this entire game. His Castle Age time was nailed, and the pressure that he has been doing on the opposing flank, Bhakti, was just spectacular. Really, Mista had a massive contribution to his team's success over here, because he single-handedly made sure that VortiX has an enormous advantage over the opposing team's Rus player.
So, what are we expecting for map 2 in this case?
Given the fact that we had a very, very rapid and decisive win by Los Pollos Hermanos on an open map, I would expect something slow. Danube River, Hill and Dale potentially. Hill and Dale is a map where Vietnam legends love to play, and they have access to Mongols. And with Mongols, you could do something like have the Mongol player play a very aggressive game, and then simultaneously have your 2 other players boom behind it. So there are definitely some intriguing strategies, but looks like they picked Danube River.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes, please. Oh, yes, please. I'm looking forward to this. Honestly, I've still not recovered from yesterday. I don't think anybody has. If you missed it, by the way, friends, if you're watching right now, wait until Lita uploads yesterday's game on Danube River. Incredible. Probably the best game I've ever seen. And we got to witness it all live right here. So, very excited to see how this one pans out. It limits you in your early game aggression, but then water factors into it. You know, no French will be in play as both were playing it in the last map. Rus won't be in here. Mongols can't be played by Los Pollos Hermanos, but also no English for Vietnam Legends. So maybe Delhi that we get to see again. Chinese potentially. What are your thoughts today?
That's an intriguing question, because you would think Mongols is a must-have here, but honestly, I think Delhi has to be a lock. If you don't have Delhi, then you will struggle a lot when it comes to protecting your early fishing eco and your teammates' early fishing eco. Delhi also has a lot of other options, so despite the fact that their technology is research very slow in Imperial Age, they are still a very powerful late-game civilization with the elephants. The ability to make stone walls and stone wall towers is very underrated. It actually gives them a very nice chance to just fortify locations that they already secured with their teammates. So that's also another reason why you would think Delhi is gonna be played over here. I think the Holy Roman Empire must be a pick for both of these teams. This is just such a big jackpot to miss out on if you not go for Holy Roman Empire here. You have a great economy. You have the chance to go for early siege if you need to. You have the chance to go for early demolition ships, early elite knights, because you will play a fast Imperial here. So a lot of fun stuff to be had with the Holy Roman Empire. And then I think Chinese is something you can justify. But as weird as it sounds like, I'm not exactly sure if Chinese is something that's guaranteed here. Especially if you're afraid that your opponent's team would bring it to a map like Hillandale in game number 3. Because
That's true. That's true. You have to think it'll be 05, right?
Yep, you have to think about the fact that if we go to Hillandale in game number 3, then saving Chinese there might be reasonable. Chinese is a powerful civilization on Danube River, but it's something that could potentially be substituted out, because the mobility and the fact that you can snap landmarks is a little less impactful on this map than it is on, let's say, Hillandale, because there is a massive extra component here, and that is the water control. So you can have the biggest ball of Fire Lancers if you can't get through stone walls on the left, and if there are demolition ships on the water on the right, right?
So would you say like HRE plus Delhi in this case a potential?
Yeah, I would say both of those are safe and reasonable picks. And then I think you can make a case for Chinese being your third civilization. Obviously, French, Rus are inaccessible for both. You can make a case for English for Mr. Steam, because that's also a great civilization to harass the opponent's fishing eco with early longbowmen.
We also saw that though with walls, you know, so you don't always have to rely on the longbows for it. You got those stone walls that could go up. You see in Delhi being used and abused in that way. That'd be third pick then. The Vietnam Legends don't have English available for them.
I think they might pop Chinese here.
Forced into it by the first pick.
Yep. Abbasids, I don't think it's something that you would necessarily go for. They are about to pick their civilizations as we speak. So, yeah, looking at the civs, Vietnam Legends also have access to the Mongols or the Abbasids. Neither of those amaze me, and it looks like they think differently. They go for Mongols, Delhi, and Chinese, so no Holy Roman Empire. Whereas on the other side, LucinfroN's team is going to have Chinese, HRE, and Delhi. I kind of feel like missing out on the HRE is something that could put them into a difficult position, because that basically means that they are missing out on early demolition ship potential.
Well, what is the HRE then? Because this map specifically, we see it go into mid-late game quite often. You know, it can really get slow. So what would be an advantage that HRE would give you in that case that would think like, okay, we can still be, you know, it can still be useful much later into the match?
I think it has a very population efficient economy with the HRE. So The Ragnitz Cathedral works very effectively to trickle in gold for you, Aachen Chapel. But I think the biggest thing for the Holy Roman Empire is going to be the explosives upgrade. Because, of course, you can go for demolition ships in any civilization in Castle Age, but explosives is such a big power spike for demolition ships, and that's an Imperial Age upgrade, so that's fast Imperial potential for the Holy Roman Empire is what could give you an edge. On the other side of things, Mongols is often used as a civilization that's capable of denying docks on hybrid maps, because you do have that early aggression potential, and maybe the idea for ACCM's team is just to burn down the docks before you could even have any fishing ships come out.
True. True. Either you burn down the docks, or like we saw, if you get small mass of any range, you can do a lot of work against them. We saw outputs that are also being put up on the close to the shore, where maybe ships can't damage them. So there's a lot of potential strategies that can be used here. I know sometimes like hybrid or water maps there can be a bit divisive, but I think they can really spice things up, especially with the way that this map is designed, where the water is not the most important thing, but you see a lot more attention given to it versus the more western or southwestern side of the map, where you have more of an open plain plus your hill that we usually just see get walled off the moment stone walls are more affordable.
Exactly. They are ready to launch game number 2 here. This is a really important game here for Vietnam Legends, because you really don't want to fall down 2 games against Los Pollos Hermanos. VortiX's team has been playing very convincingly so far. Quickly looking at their tournament record, I don't think that they dropped a single game so far, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll have to double check that. Indeed, that's the case. Los Pollos Hermanos is yet to lose a game in the entire tournament, and they got some tough teams against them. They played against one of the strongest teams that got eliminated in the qualifiers. It is Kivian, Lenok, and Murlocking, the Korean team with some of the best Korean players and some of the best players in the world in there. So they got some tough opponents, and they just swept them as well. So VortiX's team looking really strong here. They're yet to lose a game in the entire tournament.
So how it all go down, just waiting until our players actually head in. Of course, we have our own observer delay on top of it. Very excited to see this matchup. An exciting map one that we had, but looked like Los Pollos Hermanos could really tear into Vietnam Legends and find the right openings. Again, knowing when you're able to kind of dogpile on your opponents. We've seen a lot of 2v1s or whatever, but this was, in the last map, the most effective play ever. You find an opening, 3v1 one of your opponents, suddenly their eco's dead and they're not going to be able to recover from it for quite a while. Then what do? 5 minutes later, you're at the other base and you're smashing your other opponent. So that sort of, hey, I can punch you down to the ground, but then keep on punching and then head over to your teammate and do the same thing without you being able to respond effectively to it. That really hurts, but that's on a more open map. You don't have to deal with that as much on here, map 2. So yeah, a lot of questions that are being raised. I'm still asking the question to all the fans out there. They're thinking, hey, Los Pollos Hermanos, they're great. We were rooting for them, but do you think that Vietnam Legends can take the advantage when it comes to map 2? What do you think they need to learn from our first map? Can they actually learn anything from it? Going from more open to more closed-in map.
I think that they just need to completely forget game number 1, because that was, I'm not saying a disaster for them, but that was a decisive win for Los Pollos Hermanos. But this is a completely different map. It is a much slower paced map in many ways. As you said, a map that can get you to late game. And that's the big difference between these two maps. I think once we get to Imperial Age and we have some long games going, Vietnam Legends are completely even their opponents when it comes to skill. So the most important thing for them is not to die in the first couple of minutes of this game. They just launched the game, so we will have the countdown beginning in a matter of seconds.
So Ghost. Honestly, I'm always excited for some AO4, but I think watching Delhi in play for some reason really like gets me even more excited than the usual, and even more on Danube River after watching games that have been happening on this map over the past couple of days, and even the qualifiers heading into this. So I want to see players digging more into Delhi. I think there's a lot that can be used in this, and I'm wondering how effective they're going to be with how really strong elephants turn out to be in these matchups, just being huge tanks, especially when it comes to these big middle fights.
Exactly. Elephants are just one of those nice things that you see in this game, because in certain situations they can be very, very powerful, in particular in these slow team game maps, and there's just something majestic looking at like 20 war elephants marching through the map and then tanking up all that damage. So that's definitely going to be a fun one to take a look at. Once again, looking at the civs, you do have VortiX with the Holy Roman Empire, potentially going for Fast Imperial. I think the biggest question mark is going to be back these Mongols, because Mongols in this matchup and on this map, you would mostly associate them with some sort of early aggression, trying to delay, deny docks, maybe try to tower them as much as possible. And if that fails, I feel like the Mongols will cap out a tiny bit in their capabilities, and it's going to be difficult to use them very well in late game, like late Imperial, post Imperial, because they mostly rely on their mobility throughout the game, and this map is more about brute force in the middle. Civilizations like Chinese, HRE, Delhi, those are the juggernauts of this map.
Yeah, definitely so, and that's why they become these meta picks. You need to have them in. There's a reason why that you need to have them in, like you're explaining. And I'm wondering also how often, and, Lita, sometimes we got to do things for the content. You got to get something on that YouTube thumbnail. You got to get people excited for it. Maybe we'll get to see a few, demo ships here and there. We've seen a couple of them over the past couple of days, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if a demo ship were to blow up on Danube River, we'd still be able to see it on Altai, even though it's not in the map pool, right?
Exactly. The blast radius is so big that you would probably see it. Like, at this point, a demolition ship blowing up in Age of Empires 4 actually is killing units in Age of Empires 1. The explosion is so big.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. There's somebody that's like, my bottom, and then suddenly he gets blown up by a wave that's just showing up from another game 20-ish years later. So, not surprising at all. Demo ships are incredibly insane right now. So, you got to be careful. You talked about those longbows and how you can set them up, so close to, or, in general, buildings, outpost towers, or archers in general, how you put them up at the shoreline. A single one of those HRE, like early fire ships, they will absolutely smash you.
Exactly. One of the things, speaking of the longbowmen, which we are not going to see today on this map, I would have loved to see someone trying a strategy where they place longbows on their own stone walls, because that would give you 2 extra range and it would be much easier to snipe down the opponent's fish. I'm still looking for that strategy to work out at some point, but for now we're not going to have longbows coming in. In just a matter of seconds, we'll be jumping into game number 2 here. Very important game here coming up for ACCM's team, and of course, for Mista, VortiX, and LucinfroN, they could push this to match point, and then Vietnam Legends would be in trouble, quite seriously. Chinese will be there for both sides, so will be Delhi. So we'll have to see what BackD can do with the Mongols to gain an edge for VortiX's Holy Roman Empire.
Yep. So, friends, ladies, gentlemen, please, I hope you're ready. I'm very excited for it. We're 30 seconds out from getting into game. Again, it's our 2 teams of 3v3. We'll see if Los Pollos Hermanos can take this to 2-0 in our best of 5, or will Vietnam Legends strike back? That's a big name to have, Vietnam Legends. You need to really live up to it. HRE, Chinese, and Delhi for VortiX+TheMista+LucinfroN, and their teammate, of course, My Insanity. And on the other side, you got Delhi Got Mongols and Chinese ACM backed and cool. Can the Mista live up in this one or not? We'll have to see. Lita, we're in game. All yours.
On the left side, we will have VortiX, Mista, and LucinfroN, Los Pollos, Hermanos. On the far left, we will have Mista playing as the Deli in yellow. On the far northern side of the map, in the super pocket position, sheltered from all enemies, is LucinfroN in red. And in between them will be VortiX playing as the Holy Roman Empire in blue. On the other side, the Chinese player will be in between the two players. It's going to be Cool in teal. To the left of him is ACCM playing as the Delhi in green, and Mongols will be on the far right for back team purple. Bit of a surprise to see the Mongol player being all the way in the corner. Most of the time you want them on this side, although with the Delhi players being on the far left, it basically means that whenever the enemies are coming in with combat ships, they will first meet the fishing ships of the Delhi player that can shoot arrows.
Yeah, but also being able to wall up later on, you see walls that become very commonplace. And there's going to be that, that big wall fight that happens down in the center by the sacred site. So, something good for you to have where you can just wall it off and not allow any ships to kind of traverse that space. You see the HRA, of course, are on this top side in the blue for VortiX. So walling off that center and delaying your opponents, at least costing them a demo ship to open up the actual waterway, might not be too bad of an idea.
Looks like we do have ACCM and Bhakti both moving up with their con and their scout as well. They're definitely looking to try and deny a dock over here. LucinfroN already has his dock up, but here's where it gets interesting. Mista also has his dock up as well, so those fishing ships should be able to repel early aggression. And it looks like for our HRE player VortiX, we're not going to have any kind of fishing eco going for him, as the villager of the Mista might actually get intercepted, although I don't think it's going to get picked off. It's still half HP, and you're almost there at the town center.
Run! Run back home, my friend! Isn't this something that we all face? There we go. He's back in. Doesn't have to worry about anything just for now. What a way to experience the early game for him. All right, fishing boats are out, but denying that that fishing from the blue here of VortiX. I mean, I don't know when he's going to be on top of the fishing, if ever, really, Alita.
Yeah, to me, it really feels like you have no fishing coming in here. Part of the reason why you're seeing that is because you have sheep donated by Mista and LucinfroN to VortiX over here. Just to answer the question on chat, the players can pick their positions. So it's a little tricky because it's associated with colors and map seeds. But we have a wonderful tournament admin, Krazini, working behind the scenes here to ensure that the teams can indeed pick their positions. So everything that you see over here, it was intentionally picked by the players.
Thanks so much, Cassini. There's a lot of work to do for admins in the back, making sure that everything's running well. So thank you very much. There we go. Always get some appreciation for the people that make it happen in the back. And yes, I do agree. Danube River does look like those sushi restaurants that have, those like a beautiful train or whatever belt that brings you sushi all around, and sometimes demo ships, like you'd think here with a few fishing boats that are already out, still waiting until the blue dock gets built up, but not to be seen just yet by VortiX. A lot of aggression here happening, a lot of annoyance, really, on the top side of the map.
You have some extra scouts coming in here for Bhakti. It really seems like he's waiting for a dock as well, or potentially a vol from the opponent, because as things stand, you already have fishing ships out here for Mista that should be able to discourage aggression from most of those scouts. So the only reason why you would keep your scouts nearby is if you want to deny a dock out here, or the vols. Pool is voling up their side. For Vietnam Legends, we have 2 players on water as well. So the HRE and the Roost players aren't going for water, and now you see an increased amount of scouts coming in and the villager being pulled forward. There goes the Mongol tower rush. Somewhat expected. You want to deny some fishing from the opponent, and if you can start setting those docks on fire, suddenly you could start controlling the water, and having the water means that you're going to have a much better food eco at the beginning than your opponent.
Yeah, and then you can snowball very quickly off of that. Water is extremely powerful in the game's current state. Back's pushing up with all of his scouts here, taking out not his opponents, but he's also lost his own villager. So that outpost on the water for the Mongols backed is not gonna go up, at least not just yet. Continues on with the hunt, chasing down the scout of LucinfroN. Actually, will give up for now and go back to his herding and maybe actually being able to cross the
Oh,
river here. There's a couple
nope.
fishing boats trying to stop him, and it all has been blocked off. Unfortunate, but very well played. Good timing for LucinfroN.
That was a beautiful play over there from LucinfroN. As we discussed, VortiX received all of the sheep from his teammates. So the idea here is that he's not fishing, so he's gonna need some food to work with, and that's going to be sheep. And when you have the Aachen Chapel working for you, giving you the extra boost on your sheep gathering, you will have just as good of a food eco as anyone else. You see, VortiX in fact has 600 per minute, as compared to anybody. That's actually more than what you're getting from all these fishing ships for LucinfroN.
Yeah, this is why you don't see him going onto the dock in the early game. This is what you talked about in our last game with HRE, how strong they could be economically if they're allowed to just do their own thing. This is the power that they kind of give up, and it allows them to go for the Regnitz Cathedral so quickly as everybody else is hitting H2. Castle is already on the way for the HRE player that pretty much remains uncontested in his position.
Exactly. And part of the reason why it's so efficient here is because, as I said, you can donate your sheep to your Holy Roman Empire player because you don't need them. On any other map, that's not really a possibility because you need your own sheep as well, but not on this one. You can just fish now. Notably, the dock of LucinfroN is about to be set on fire by ACCM. He's been throwing torches that way for a long time. And now you see some scouts coming in, and it looks like the dock villager here will be intercepted from Mista. You do have a Dao out though, so not only the fishing ships are here now to push away the scouts, but only a single combat ship. Still, that many scouts should be able to just dive in and set a dock on fire really fast.
Yep, definitely true in here, and it's a bit of a delay, and you of course don't see much dedication on the water side from Vietnam Legends. They're just going on for a bit of fishing. Their focus is mostly on their scouts and trying to do more damage. A prelate will actually be spotted here as he went out for a relic, and that little walk is going to come to an end as he does go down. Like we said, Regnus Cathedral is already up and ready. Talked about the deer being ferried in, or about the sheep being sent in. Even more of a superpower, the black magic that the HRE can work with the amount of food that they're carrying in, making sure they can keep up and go way beyond with their economy. It is really scary to see, but what would be the next step then for a HRE player? VortiX is not going to sit there and collect, food for the rest of the game.
Oh, there's a lot of things to talk about right now because I think the biggest question is not even what the Holy Roman Empire player is going to do. It's more about what his teammates are going to do because you already have towers up here for Bhakti. He managed to sneak them up. And now you see the dock of LucinfroN burning down, which means all of those fishing ships will become idle. You could also see a sneaky villager from LucinfroN moving south, and it was intercepted by wolves. So I wonder if he tried to sneak a dock up that failed. Ultimately, you have the fishing eco of LucinfroN pushed away, and those scouts are doing work for Bhakti. Of course, for VortiX, now he's gonna need something that cleans up those scouts before he can move out for relics. Bhakti's scouts are doing work over here. They're destroying docks and they're limiting the movement of the HRE player, and that's setting back the team of VortiX quite heavily.
And this is not something that you expect to see on Danube River. So much harassment, not just, hey, I'm going to poke and prod. I'm going to proactively go in, burn your docks down, destroy them, slow down your economy incredibly. Now another prelate will be shot down and destroyed by the scouts and the Khan. Backed is doing an incredible job, and maybe this is why they spawned him here at the top, to allow him for easier control to get on the other side of that river and keep on harassing, doing control, and keeping his... This is crown control in a nutshell, basically. This is the perfect way to see it. And ACCM is going to be hitting Castle Age himself. Your first Delhi Sultanate is up, trying to keep up with the powerhouse of the HRE. On the other side is the Palace of Swabia. Is gonna come out and start being built.
Once again, the scouts move in, and despite having two spearmen out there for LucinfroN to hold that dock, it's not gonna be sufficient. Villager also gets picked off, some more spears are coming in to reinforce, but at this point you just throw a couple of torches, run away, try to pull away the Spearman, and you already have towers up as well for Bacti, so he's starting to kill that. And you see LucinfroN has had enough of this. He's going for the Barbican of the Sun. Mista also has to make a couple of Spearmen. These scouts have forced so many otherwise unnecessary moves from LucinfroN and Mista, and the value is just so massive on those scouts. Those are very cheap scouts that Bacti added, and he has forced the barracks out of the Chinese player. He has forced the barracks out of the Delhi player here. Now, of course, once you have the Delhi player up with the compound of the defender, which I think is the landmark he's going to age up with, he could start making stone walls and stone wall towers with those spearmen, but we still have a couple moments until that happens. As things stand, I think ACCM's team having a completely untouched economy is massive, and you already see ACCM up to Castle Age.
Yep. And you know what? In 10 minutes and 20 seconds to hit Imperial, I mean, great for VortiX. But like you said, a lot was forced out. Barbican of the Sun being so far up north, it's not close, anywhere near close to a crossing. It's too far to really defend two of the dock centers that you would see from his teammates and the yellow of the Mista and VortiX. It's just gonna be out there in the open, not really able to do too much. So that is a lot happening here. A lot of infantry also being forced out that won't be super useful in a few minutes. But still, harassment happening here with the scouts. They keep on the pressure, almost burning down a house, but they just keep on moving. You find a villager there. Where'd you find that little Phil? Where are they going?
And I think the magical thing here for Bacti is that he still has his scouts alive. At this point, you could even justify professional scouts, as he is going to find another prelate here potentially. Looks like Bacti didn't spot it though. He was probably looking elsewhere, so his army just passed by that prelate. He could have killed another one. VortiX already collected 2 relics, but obviously has been set back quite a bit in the relic collection. As ACCM is coming in for the Sacred Site, that is going to be one of the shortest lived scholars I've seen in a long time.
Oh. More damage keeping up here. Carrick is even out for the HRV, and that's going to force at least those scouts back in just a moment. I mean, these scouts are worth every single dime that was put into them. They've been doing so much work, and kudos to Back for being able to do so much with so little on a map that isn't really considered this kind of quote-unquote roamy map where you can constantly sneak about, move about, and constantly keep putting pressure on your opponents and on their fishing eco. So exactly why we see the Barbican of the Sun that came out in its position, but how effective is it going to be later on in this game?
Elephants are crawling out here for ACCM. It's going to take a fight against the Spearman all the way out there. Demolition ship coming in for Cool down south. He could sink all those Spearmen, but really, I don't think that he needs to trigger that. I just feel like the Elephants can clean this up. The big question is whether or not VortiX will make a forward dock at some point for demos. For now, he's got a Carrack, and can we just appreciate the fact that this is a 12-minute Carrack for him? These warships are very expensive in Imperial Age. They're particularly good against buildings, and as you see, those towers are being taken down. VortiX is doing a great job with that Carrack so far. And Mista coming in with stone walls all the way around, and that could give them the map control on the left side. Demolition ships from VortiX blasting through the left side though, so suddenly the left side of the fishing eco for ACCM is wide open.
Yeah, finally those 2 demos are going to come in, but there is still an explosive Dow that was set and ready to go for the Delhi player here, ACCM. So he can come in and start countering if necessary. Look at how far up the fish eco is for our rep player, LucinfroN. He has 26 fishing boats up in the north, fishing constantly. That is absolutely insane to basically get close to VortiX, and even then, VortiX economy in terms of food production is just absolutely insane. So this kind of just gives you a level of how it goes. A bit of a a bit of a Dow play there. 1 demo for 2, a good trade here, and just making sure that the Delhi player can constantly put pressure on VortiX and his demo ships.
But there is more, and that's the power of the HRE here. Demolition ships aren't particularly expensive, and they could just come in and destroy everything like we're seeing right now.
He almost, what is it? You do 2-shot a dock. That is absolutely insane. Explosive Dow comes out, but maybe a bit too slow. And the second demo ship is going to keep up crawling through. It's going to find another set of fishing ships. That is going to be beautiful to collect. Let's go. Another set. Are you kidding me? 4 more ships get blown to smithereens. I can't believe it. 2 ships just took down 7 or 8. That's insane.
That is insane. Fact is doing the best he can with those scouts still behind the opponent's lines, but at this point, obviously, most of the stuff happening is on the water. Those demolition ships are crawling up from VortiX, and they're about to sink another batch of fishing ships here.
Oh no. Tactical nuke incoming! You know what? Honestly, so great to combine strategy games and first-person shooters. I feel Modern Warfare 2 that is just being built into AoE 4. So beautiful to see. Outpost here being pushed in with all 6 of these scouts. They're doing damage, close to destroying it, and just trying to put pressure on VortiX, who's kind of looking pretty comfy so far.
And really, this is the power of the Holy Roman Empire here, because demolition ships are powerful, but especially if you get the technology in Imperial Age, explosives, that's where they become really dangerous. And you see, at this point, VortiX's army composition with the Holy Roman Empire is simple. Demolition ships. We have Fire Lancers arriving from both sides, and you see, in the middle, Pool is dropping his Spirit Way. This could be great to reinforce the middle, but it could also be very, very risky, because you could lose that, and then you're going to have a tough time with Fire Lancer production.
You see how many vills, dude? This is insane. The keep surviving, but a bazillion vills dying there. Dude, what? That's like a dozen of them, and the dock on top of it. Oh, stop building anything close to the water. This is insane. Just patrolling around with the junks and anything with explosives on it. The Dow, everything has been shot to bits. And there are more of these HRE demos coming up. How many can they keep on sniping? They see what's going on with the Dows.
They don't even trade off the demos. It's like, okay, I'm gonna run past you. Now you have Cool as well with his demolition ships being in Imperial Age. And you see, he's going to trigger that demo in between 2 demolition ships, because that way he's cost effective. The Mista is like, don't leave me out of this one. I'm gonna join the party as well.
Absolutely insane. There you go. A lot of damage coming down from the keep that fires in and double shots. But you know what? How much does it take to destroy a whole set of walls and a keep right next to it? There's 2 more left, and that keep is burning. The walls are destroyed, and I'm sorry, but I believe in explosive superiority. I love me the smell of gunpowder in the morning and throwing a bit of napalm. Why not? You need more proof? Here it is.
In the middle, we have Elite Fire Lancers already coming out for Cool. He's got the Spirit Way working here, and that's going to decrease the cost of those Fire Lancers a lot. He needs to keep that alive to be effective, though. Once again, demolition ships are crawling in. The gate wall, or the gatehouse, which was the other Imperial Age landmark for a Chinese player, also got denied over here on that stone wall. And now you just see those stone walls being taken down by all of those demolition ships. One even gets past, and he's now sailing north to all of those fishing ships.
Yeah, trying to do work with those tower wall elephants against the fishing boats. That in the meantime, at least in the center of the map, you know, demo ships can't hurt you if you're in the middle of that central island. At least that's what I'm told. So building up a bit of a base here for ACCM, making sure that it can keep up pressure on the fish and maybe in the future push through that wall. But there's actually quite a few of these light horse fire lancers actually from LucinfroN that have passed in to the base that are clearing up so many vills going down to the fire lancers off the first charge, and there are more that await to join this. And even the lancer himself just being recoiled back. They're just chasing them down. That's so many. That's 12 vills that are just running away.
Oh, the fish up north. All of those go down to demolition ships. I hope the devs are looking at this.
At Relic, hello. So pleased to have you in here with us. More, though, of these fire lancers are moving down. They're doing damage, and they just bite, and they fall back. And more fire ships are blowing things to bits. Lita, how do you deal with fire ships? You're the expert. Here, I'm the shooter guy that comes in. I have no clue what's going on.
If you can't beat them, join them, I guess. That's the best thing you can do right now. And then also send some nice messages at the Age of Empires Twitter and Relic to please nerf the demos. That's something that many people
Please.
in the community have been trying to do.
Please, that would be cool. Look at that, though. The Carrack is being fired down by an outpost, and it's not really able to find the right angle
Oh, the
to deal
bait.
with it. A lot of fire ships that
Oh,
are
the
being
bait. That's
destroyed.
beautiful.
Oh my.
Oh, that was
Oh my.
just such a clever teamwork. Oh my god.
Another one happened at the same time. Oh my. Two explosives at the same time. Boom.
Oh boy, that's just a slaughter right now. You gotta love that team coordination because regardless of how powerful those demos are, it was a nice move to bait those fire lancers close to the shoreline with your own and then sync them with a demo. Up north, you have VortiX crawling up with bombards. Escorting them to the middle is gonna be a bit of a challenge though, because now Cool is building up a massive force of fire lancers. Still, crossing that river is gonna be a challenge.
Oh, this is why you saw that keep and that setup in the middle by ACCM, but how does he cross over? The Mista also has his own set of Stonewall Tower and Stonewalls in general that are set up in the center. So they can kind of use it as an anchoring point, but a big fight here is going to erupt between the Fire Lancers of both sides. And there's the crossing. Bombards are through from the HRE. They keep on firing with support of the elite men at arms. More Fire Lancers will keep joining the fray here. And looks like Cool has to fall back. All the production that he has here around the Spiritway that is being built up, just so all the Dynasty units can be built up much, much cheaper, but already under fire by the Bombards that are just out of range.
That's the biggest problem right now for Cole. Having the Spirit Way all the way up here could be either great or terrible. If you are able to reinforce this battlefield and keep your enemies from destroying these, it's great because you can reinforce the battle very easily, but the moment you lose this, you lose a significant portion of your Fire Lancer production, and it's just going to be very difficult to regain control over this part of the map, and just to get those repaired.
There's another big fight happening here. At least there is some support from the Mongol backed. But the Bombards, in the meantime, are just smashing through everything. They keep on rolling in with more infantry to tank for them. Lancers taking a lot of damage. Fire Lancers engaging in the center, but the Delhi comes in maybe at the right moment. There's a few Tower Elephants just to try to help out. They're going to be able to soak out a lot of that damage. Bombards might be able to clear them out, but that Spirit Way might just get smashed. Half of the stables are already down. There's a big flank coming through with the men-at-arms. Engagement has gotten closer and closer to the water. You always have to keep this in the back of your head. We don't know when or how there will be a fire ship attacking us. It's going to be tough to deal with still, with LucinfroN moving up with his own fire lancers. They're actually going to keep on moving and try to cross in to counter his opponents and try to clear out any reinforcements coming in and the production itself. War elephants are going to fall down to the Bombards, and I'm so sorry to see these elephants going in, but hey, seems like the crossing is through. The Fire Lancers are alive, and they're going to start doing damage in their opponent's base.
Now you got the Fire Lancers moving up. As you said, they have been doing a lot of work, and the momentum is just gigantic on the side of VortiX's team, because let's not forget that behind this one, VortiX was able to gather quite a lot of relics. So, yes, initially it was a slow process, but now he's got a very, very good gold income. 2,500 gold per minute for VortiX, the best in the game, and that's obviously something that helps a lot. And the efficiency of those demolition ships also coming to play. Just look at the flood of demos coming through the map, and ACSM is trying to counter these with towers, and down south, look at the crawl from Mista. We haven't talked about him for a long time. He's crawling up with Stonewall towers, completely suffocating ACCM.
That is absolutely beautiful. Red Fort, never heard of him. Look at this. Keeping up, moving closer and closer, and ACCM is going to start to feel this very, well, just a bit of time here, even to the south of his own base, firing down into the archer ranges. There's some bombards that are coming in to help, but you might see another fight brewing in the center. Elite Fire Lancer are pushing down, forcing a Khan out of position, but man, that Khan has a lot of work to do. More Fire Lancers are crossing over, and there's nothing to really stop them. Started from an outpost, but man, that is a lot of commitment. An outpost that is close to the water that can get blown up real fast. And the Vils, they're exposed. The Fire Lancers are pushing into them. There's so many that just keep on dying. Dots are being destroyed at the same time. I think we're getting close to calling this one, Lita.
Exactly, there's just so many things happening everywhere. Those demolition ships always keep us at the edge of our seats because you look away for a second and you see dozens of units dying, and there is just no chance right now for Vietnam Legends to regain water control. And as you said, those Fire Lancers are doing an excellent job trying to take down those villagers. And Mista doesn't even need to sweat this one. He's slowly crawling up with towers, but at this point, even if he wouldn't do that, his team is already leading, and you see the next wave of Fire Lancers coming in. Cool has lost all his production in the middle, so him building Fire Lancers is a very, very, very distant dream at this point. And then they would just struggle a lot. You see, Mista, look at that Spearman wall rush that he's just making happen out there.
My god, there's just so much work being done here with these Spearman Fire Lances ahead of them. It looks like a cinematic at this point. No real two-way around it. All the military is crossing over. The attack is nigh Lita, and even now the Mista is stepping in with his own bombards in play, readying them. Surrenders are coming out, and looks like our game is done. Los Pollos Hermanos, they fry up another batch.
Yeah, decisive. Absolutely decisive win here. Probably even more decisive than we had in the previous game. Demolition ships came into play early. They sunk a ton of units. They pretty much prevented water control from the opponent. And then reinforcing that battlefield was just not a possibility anymore for Vietnam. And once they failed to reinforce the battlefield, they lost the production for Cool. If you look at Cool's military numbers, that just plummeted after like minute 23, 4 or so, simply because he never had the chance to replenish them anymore. Whereas if you look at LucinfroN, LucinfroN was able to keep reproducing his army very fast because his production was safe. And you can just see those swings in the population when one or two demolition ships hit. In the end, VortiX finishes the game with 131 building or kills and 77 losses, but 48 buildings killed as well. Some of them from the cannons, some of them from the demolition ships.
Lita, I'm just gonna turn your attention over to the economy tab for just a moment. I'm not telling you to put any money in any stock at this point, but look at VortiX and LucinfroN. VortiX, almost 29k gold collected. That is insane with the relics that he has, and almost 38,500 food for LucinfroN. That is incredible. Keeping up with their food production, making sure they have all the gold in the world with the relics. Absolutely insane economy bonuses. And then this is before we start talking about the impact of those explosives, like all those ships, fire ships that are rushing through into the water. So even if we try to factor them out, there was already a substantial advantage that goes beyond it that kind of reinforces their position. Incredible.
Exactly. As you said, 28,000 gold, by far the best in the game for VortiX. LucinfroN also had a gigantic eco lead compared to his counterparts. So 7,000 more food collected than the other Chinese player, and 6,000 more wood as well for him. Mista also collected 7,000 stone as well. So if you look at his economy, even Mista, 20,000 food, that's basically the third best in the game. And he was basically sending his villagers to stone so he can just make those walls happen. And also the fact that they made those stone walls on the left side meant that Vietnam couldn't really expand in that direction. So there was a lot of components to this one, but you really felt like VortiX's team just had three players that all played exceptionally well. And you see, Mista wasn't really doing much with VortiX and LucinfroN's army. He was just doing his own thing on the left side, and it worked because his two teammates were also able to work very well together in the middle.
What a game we had. A lot of ups and downs and a lot of kabooms. And if you ask me, I love me some kabooms. I'm not gonna lie. They're always beautiful to see. It's from the school of a very famous American movie director. I wonder if anybody can figure out such an obscure reference. But you know what? It's there. and it might be Los Pollos Hermanos taking the series, going to the semis. And honestly, between seeing Los Pollos Hermanos today and watching yesterday and seeing how effective the Muslim based security and recon are with Beastie and the Sterile Bros, I mean, we could already have our finals pretty much already.
Indeed, this is gonna be a very difficult team for whoever encounters them. We expected these guys to be very strong, but so far, they have been steamrolling Vietnam Legends, and make no mistake, Vietnam Legends is not a bad team at all. It's just the fact that VortiX's team is insanely powerful right now.
Yep. I don't know how the semis are gonna look like, honestly, but today's games might be some pretty quick ones. I mean, we finished around what time? Like 3 hours from now yesterday. Today might be a bit faster. We're waiting until our players actually decide on our third map, as the tournament format is you pick the map just after you finish the one from before, so you don't have the entirety of the maps kind of laid out in front of you at the beginning of the series. Plus, we now know that Chinese, Delhi, and HRV are not available for Los Pollos Hermanos. Same thing for Delhi with Vietnam Legends and the Chinese, but they also cannot use Mongols in the upcoming game. So if we have more of an open field map, not having the Mongols maybe might hurt, giving Los Pollos Hermanos an advantage. What are you expecting map-wise?
Well, I've already seen the map being submitted, so making a prediction here would be a little unfair. The next map is going to be Lipany, so we're going on an open map, but not as open as Arabia was. It's a little bit on the closed style of open maps. Not as open as Highview is, not as open as Arabia is, so there's definitely more chance for the Vietnamese team to play an early defensive gameplay and make their playstyle with the English player in the pocket work out, because that was their game plan in the first game, and that's a pretty powerful build, having the English in the pocket. It's just the fact that you need to make sure that your flanks don't die in the process. Looking at these civilizations, we do have French, Rus, and Mongols for LucinfroN's team, so they're bringing back the top 3 land civilizations over here, the same that they used in game number 1. French, Rus, and English for ACCM's team, so pretty much the same lineup as we had in game number 1. The only exception is that we are playing Lipany and not Arabia.
I'm worried about that English pick. I'm worried about English, and I'm worried about their positioning, because that might be something that could be exploited. I think the biggest thing in map 1 was how slow English are to respond in a team game setting. Like 1v1, completely different than what you have in 3v3s. You cannot compare them in the right way. So not being able to respond to attacks where your teammates are being assaulted, it takes you so long to get your longbows in position to defend your teammates that in 20-30 seconds, a lot can happen. You can lose a lot of villagers. Your teammate could lose a lot of villagers as well. And it takes you so long to reposition that it's just, you need to constantly split up your longbows between different things to do. You need to get up to Imp and really have enough defensive structures to protect you against raids, protect you against Mongols that just kind of charge into your base with their lancers, even surviving that early game harassment. You can do that, but the moment you get ganged up on by 2-3 players, it's gonna be a tough time later.
It is going to be a tough time indeed. The players are ready just now, so we will have the game launch very soon. Match point right now for VortiX+TheMista+LucinfroN and the Mista. They've been looking extremely powerful so far. Won game number 1 quite decisively. Mista was exceptional with the Mongols though. If Mista can replicate the same performance and cut off the Rus player of the opponent from the relics, the huntables, then I feel like this is going to be a difficult matchup for Vietnam Legends. On the other hand, now Vietnam Legends know what to expect from Mista, so they could adapt their playstyle based on what they have seen in game number 1. We'll see if Mista is going to change things up though, because the Mongols have a lot of early game flexibility. He didn't go for a lot of Dark Age pressure. It's very possible that now he's going to pop that.
I'm worried, man. I'm worried. The series is getting closer than I really expected it. Well, it's not as close as I'm expecting it to be. It's starting to look dire. So, what is there to be learned from map 2 going, or especially map 1 even in this case, because it's so close to what we're having for a third one, for Vietnam Legends to, keep this up?
I feel like the first component is making sure that the flanks don't fall that much behind. Especially in the first game, the Rus player not being able to collect a lot of relics and carcasses set them back quite a bit. We'll see if they will place the English player in the pocket again, or they will go for the flank position, because that's their decision point to make. We will have ACCM with the Rus, backed with the French, and Cool playing as the English. Other side, it looks like the lineup is the same as we had in game number 1. LucinfroN is playing French, VortiX is playing Rus, and Mista is playing the Mongols. So Vietnam Legends also decided to shuffle the civilizations. This is an interesting talking point, because in many teams you see that a certain civilization is always picked by one specific player that is just very good with that civilization. Do you think it is a good idea here to shuffle the civilizations? Because they might shuffle the positions, they might change up the strategy, but do you think it's also a good idea to change which player takes which civilization?
I'm not sure, really. I'm not sure if shuffling is the right play. Is it positioning? I'm just really not sure it's going to translate in game, because there's so much for you to factor in, not just on your own skills, but how effectively will Los Pollos Hermanos as a team continuously kite you or pressure you. Maybe switching up the players who's on what civ is going to help out, but then who knows how how your opponents will respond to it. Are they going to then target you instead of your teammate? I'm really wondering what the reaction will be like now, and what positions everybody will be in, because with French, with Rus, maybe you'd expect Cool to be kind of in the pocket himself, but like you said, maybe having him on the wing to defend the wing and be offensive on that wing could be a good idea, because that thought of in map 1, hey, Cool can be in the center, it'll all be fine, really didn't pan out well, did it?
Exactly. So, as you said, positions is going to be a difficult question, something that they need to answer in this game. And of course, the other thing is that with the position comes a certain level of change up in the strategy as well, because obviously you're going to play a certain civilization slightly differently depending on whether or not you're pocket or flank.
I'm still looking at that early game aggression. Having Rus on both sides, having French on both sides, but then also having, Mongols for our first squad of Los Pollos Hermanos. The Mista can do a lot of work. We saw how effective he was on, I think he played Mongols on map 1 as well, right? Or was it VortiX that was playing? I don't quite remember. But Mista looks like he can multitask very effectively, and I feel it's something that is good to have for you as Mongols. If you can put pressure on your opponents early in the game, this is going to look real pretty for Los Pollos Hermanos, and Vietnam Legends would be backed against the corner very, very quickly. So I'm wondering if the map geometry will also have something to play in this, because yes, Lipani is open, but the elevations kind of can change things around, right? It kind of gives you some natural defenses in some ways.
Absolutely. It's a slightly different map from Arabia, because depending on where those hills are, certain players might be a lot more well protected. Usually you see some hills in the middle of the map, so the pocket players are a lot more sheltered from others. But sometimes you see quite a lot of cliffs spawning on the flanks as well. So one of the biggest question marks right now is going to be the position of those cliffs on the map, which obviously is generated randomly, although Pre-peaked seeds are used to make sure that the maps are as fair as possible, and of course, to make sure that the players spawn in their desired locations. That's the bigger thing here, because in some cases, the players, if you just generate a random map, wouldn't spawn in their pre-picked locations. The easiest way to make sure that this happens is to use pre-picked seeds. We only have 1 minute to go from the countdown, and it's match point. Los Pollos Hermanos already in the doorstep of the semifinals over here, whereas for Vietnam Legends, they have an uphills battle to fight over here. Red, yellow, and blue will be the colors for VortiX's team, and teal, green, and purple for Vietnam Legends.
I mean, literally an uphill battle. If we're talking about this map specifically, there's so many hills to climb through it all, and might be a limiter. But did we get a crash?
I don't think so.
No, we're in it. Hey, let's go.
The spec countdown started from like 5.5 minutes, which is very weird, and I've never seen that happen. So I thought that maybe they accidentally set it up to be a little higher or so, but ultimately it looks like it was just a bugged UI element or something like that. We're in game, and it looks like there is no crash. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 3 in this best of 5. Match point for Los Pollos Hermanos. They're on the right side with VortiX in the pocket as the Rus in blue. The flank is going to be LucinfroN playing as the red French, and down south you're going to have the Mista playing as the yellow Mongols. The exact same lineup that we had in game number 1, whereas on the other side, some changes were made. Cool is going to be handling the English in teal in the flank this time around. Pocket will be ACCM with the green Rus, and up north you're going to have Bakti playing as the French in purple.
Yeah, both of our Rus here are playing the pockets for their own teams. You got the English, and honestly, I think I'm not convinced. Having the English on the flanks, on the wings here, might be the better decision to make, just because they can at least defend their own without needing to, be in the center and constantly keep ping-ponging in between two positions. Rus being in the middle definitely works out for it. French also having good flexibility and good tanking with their knights, not too bad. I am wondering if Backed will set up like an early outpost or whatever close to his gold vein, just in case he gets harassed, because the Mista might be looking at him and saying, you know what, I want to slow him down. First of all, I want to get the bonuses by burning down his mining camp, but I also want to slow down his potential night production just so we can keep harassing his other teammates in the meantime.
That is indeed a big question. So far, Mista has not shown any signs of aggression. Looking at what he's doing, I would expect him to have a very similar approach to game number 1. He's going for Gur, no production buildings just yet, so it's unlikely that he's putting up pressure in Dark Age. If we look at the Rus players, you have 255 bounty in a matter of seconds for VortiX, and for ACCM, he's at 270. So the two Rus players currently are head-to-head, both of them playing in the pocket position very safely. They're likely going for that fast castle horse archer approach. The big question is, what can Mista do to potentially prevent the opponent's Rus player from picking up carcasses or picking up relics? Because that was the big story of game number 1.
I don't think there's anything really that could be done in this case, really. You don't have the maneuverability, and whereas you got Rus and Mongols on the other side, they can be very comfortable in how they're going about things. So that's going to be a tough one to deal with. VortiX is going up with his Golden Gate into H2, and it's just the standard course of doing things here for the Rus. At some point, you'll see, like you were saying, carcasses being moved around. We'll have more scouts being added in and potentially going into pressure with the Mongols themselves also in the south, providing support here with the Mista. Just trying to clear up that bounty. VortiX is at 330, so not too bad, but also ACCM is at 405, so pretty fast on the hunt himself.
Indeed, ACCM has a very nice start over here. He even left the Wolf alone that was initially trailing him, but then de-aggroed. But as things stand, ACCM will have no trouble getting to that 500 bounty. Whereas on the other side, VortiX is at 360, so a little bit behind compared to his counterpart, but he's already picking up another batch of huntables, so he should get 500 pretty soon as well. As things stand, you're going to have Mista coming in with the Deer Stones. Still no production building for him. School of Cavalry for LucinfroN. He's making a mill Given how many sheep he still has, it looks like LucinfroN wants to play professional scouts with French, and his counterpart, Bacti, is going to do the exact same thing. So neither of the French players will field a lot of knights at the beginning because they'll focus on scout production first.
All right, so there you go. Our early game strategies are being figured out. Maneuverability might be the name of the game with all those scouts out on the field in the next few minutes. And I'm really focused on the English here, seeing Council Hall is coming up, halfway done. Should be ready to go and start cranking out that longbow production. Everybody going up to feudal age, back to LucinfroN, all joining in on the fun, on the powwow, on the party. A bit of raiding being done in the meantime, but so far a pretty slow way to start up this matchup.
Exactly, it's a rather slow start. It looks like Cool is once again going for the farming approach of the English. I wonder if he wants to go for a second town center, but instead, I see a barracks being added. So he's going to make a combination of spearmen and archers. Now, this is not something that you see every day in team games, simply because the opponent's archers can often pick off your spears. But in this matchup, where the Mongols are likely going to make horsemen, you're likely going to have some heavy cavalry from the French, and you won't have any horse archers on the field for the next few minutes. Archers and spearmen could be a nice combination for Cole, but this will be spotted by Mista, so he knows exactly how to react, and his reaction will be stable for the time being.
Oh, it's been actually blocked in the meantime. There's one that's being blocked up by a scout. And interesting that the Ovu is built so far away from anything that can really, defend this position. Not sure if pastures will be built up at any point. It looks like you said, stables would be the play. But this is just so much annoyance being put down and delay from Cool. Notices what's going on, throws in one more time, and then falls back. Not too bad. Finally, the stable can go down, but hey, slow your opponent down. That's what 30, 40 seconds that were just bought up by that one scout being, a pain in the behind. Not too bad.
Yeah, that was very, very good delay over there. The stable also took some damage, but the most important thing is that, as you said, the horsemen were delayed. That Ovu being all the way out there is definitely something that hurts, but this is how the stone mine spawns, so I guess you're just gonna have to deal with it. Archer range
Yeah.
coming in for Mista as well, and that's going to mean that we're going to probably see some Mangadai alongside his horsemen. The same approach that he took in a previous game, but spears and longbows should be able to clap that army, no problem. Mista is doing a beautiful job keeping track of all of those forces as we speak.
So there's quite a few of these spearmen and longbows that are on the field. Harden Khan is going to have to fall back. He's taking quite a bit of damage here as finally getting the early horsemen to come in and support him. You're going to need them in the future anyways. But you still have to worry about something extra here on this map, is that you still have a lot of spaces where cavalry can be hidden. They can charge out of nowhere. So it really is this sort of hybrid with the amount of hills, the amount of openness that it has, but also with the forestry that could be used to your advantage defensively or offensively, depending on your positioning. You see scouts doing a bit of work here, but Back's already brought up a couple of knights, and the two French players on the flanks trying to equal one another.
You even have survival techniques coming in here for LucinfroN, so he really is counting on those carcasses. However, we have to keep in mind that a lot of players are sharing those carcasses, so you won't have a ton for each player. Longbow is now arriving for Kudo, and this is the first time in this set where I really feel like Mista is the one suffering from the pressure. So far, he was always the aggressor, and Cool is crawling up with the tower. It's basically a 1 versus 1 down south between the Mongol and the English player, a 1v1 up north between the French players, and then the Rus are just doing Rus things, going fast castle. VortiX just now hitting Castle Age, whereas on the other side, ACCM is about to hit Castle Age in the next few seconds as well.
There's only a couple of spearmen here guarding those 7 longbows. So might be an opening where the early horsemen and the Khan can actually come in and do some damage, but the outpost is being built up, so you should be all good to go. And threatening that wood line for the Mongol player here at the Mista. VortiX has collected a lot of those carcasses that were felled and set on the floor, sending them all the way home. Look at the amount of deer carcass that are just at the TC here for VortiX. That is actually insane, but hey, not too bad for just pure hunt in the early game.
Absolutely not. You might even consider sending some to LucinfroN here, because LucinfroN invested into survival techniques to accelerate his food income, as we could see Mista intercepting some reinforcements from Cool here. So with how much hunt you have, you could really justify donating some to LucinfroN, despite the fact LucinfroN already has his own professional scouts in as well. And so far, Mista's tower defense here is very nice, and now he's coming in with the cavalry to hit those gold miners. Pool was doing the exact same build that he did before. He's going for the second town center, and with longbows having the network of castles bonus, he's able to repel all of those horsemen for the time being. This time around, Mista was able to do way less damage on the opponents than in the previous game.
Yeah, and like you said a couple minutes ago, he's actually the one that's being pressured. So great from Cool to identify, like, hey, this person is going to be a pain for me. I am going to put the hurt on him. I want to be the aggressor in this case before he could, really establish his position in this game. However, looks like that pressure is kind of going down and really waning. The outposts are being pushed in. There's so many of these scouts and horse archers that are coming in. Should clean up the longbows. The spearmen are already down, and one outpost is only halfway constructed. So, hey, they're going to be able to burn down the actual one that threatened the wood line very quickly here with the scouts. Great cleanup here, and Cool. How much was he able to accomplish? Was he able to slow anything down? I don't really think so, because a lot of the buildings from the Mista were actually set on the other side. So even though the map spawn had the oval, or forced the oval to be built so far away, it kind of still worked well for the Mista with that positioning. I don't know. That's a pretty lucky play.
Yeah, Mista is still fine. One thing that it definitely accomplished is that it did slow down Mista's castlage time. In the previous game, well, not the previous one, but the previous open map game, Arabia, Mista had a very nice castlage timing as well. That's going to be slowed down quite considerably over here. And behind this one, Cool is on 2 town centers, and he's setting up the farming ecos. So the biggest benefit that he's receiving from that is that his own eco is not getting pushed. So if you look at the villager counts, Mista's at 38, and as opposed to him is Cool sitting at 43. Horse archer numbers currently seem to be fairly even, knight numbers also rather even, so the rest of the map is fairly balanced as things stand. We'll have to look at the Rus players with the relic department. Already 3 relics for VortiX inside his base, only the first one being brought in by ACCM. ACM's got some ones closer to his base though, so I think relic count should also be fairly even here.
Oh my, look at the amount of cavalry that is streaming in down into the center, close to LucinfroN's base. He has a pretty decent stack of knights himself. It's around 15 or so, but his eco is being raided. Back is bringing in his own royal knights into the goal, trying to slow down that production. Quite a few of the villagers are going to survive, but actually a decent chunk has fallen down. Oh, there we go. The blob in from the red knights of LucinfroN will save the day. And the rest of it will be done with the horseman of the Mista, who keeps on pressuring, cleaning up whatever is left. A decent bit of eco damage, like you see, with LucinfroN now at 37 eco. Still not too bad, especially if we compare him to ACCM on the other side, who's at 40. So that did not do as much damage as you thought it did.
It definitely did some harassment, but as you said, Bacti did lose quite a lot of knights over here, so it's something to consider. LucinfroN's got a fairly sizable force of knights at 17, whereas for Bacti, his military count right now is at 15, but some of them are horsemen, and now VortiX is moving in with the horse archer, so he could compensate for those villager losses from LucinfroN in a matter of seconds.
Yep. And I don't know why I mentioned ACCM. Yeah, it's backed in this case. You're looking at him, you're seeing what he's doing. He's got 49 in eco, so quite a few, actually 10 extra villagers than the French red on LucinfroN's side. But hey, there's a lot of damage being pushed in here on the outpost, denying the rest of the gold. There was only 150 left on it, so it's not the end of the world, but still able to do damage to it. Horse archers are showing up here from ACCM trying to do damage, but actually they're isolated. Their royal knights are pushing into them, and there's just not enough of a mass for Backed, because a few were thrown away in the raid, the unsuccessful one into LucinfroN's base. Quite a few of horse archers will fall, and more will rally here together as the Mista has his own horseman very close up with his Khan, and they are looking to force a battle outside of Backed's base here. Positioning is going to be very important.
Exactly. You hit the nail on top of its head. Acti did a lot of eco damage to LucinfroN, by killing villagers. However, this also meant that Bhakti lost quite a lot of his knights, and we also saw some horsemen galloping all the way up hills and getting slaughtered by the horse archers. And now, because of the lack of the knights, there isn't enough meat shield in front of those green horse archers. And now it looks like we're going to have VortiX's team moving in. All three players teaming up on Bhakti, and it is currently a 3 versus 2 on this battlefield.
Oh, that is not looking good at all. And the horse archer is still doing work. Even Mangodai coming in to help with this fight. And they're all retreating. That you want to have a mass of horse archers if you're ACCM, if you're Rus in general. You want to keep that mass for the late game, but all of it is pretty much done and cleaned up. Horse archers now for the blue. VortiX are right under the main TC backed. All the villas are inside of it. A lot of villas, a lot of army. Pretty much all the army has been destroyed. Finally, we see Cool coming in, but what is this? Again, this is Los Pollos Hermanos exploiting the fact that the longbows are very slow, and yes, they can defend their own space very effectively, but when it comes to being there for their own teammates, the English, not so good at doing that. All the longbows are getting cleaned up. They were just too slow to get into position. All that's left is a few horse archers for green and ACCM, and they're being pushed and cleaned up by VortiX's own. This is not looking good with the armies down, and now the bases being raided. It's gonna be a rough one here, Lita.
Yeah, I love how VortiX is still using those leftover scouts to burn down those towers out there. He needs his army on the left side, so he's just going to keep the scouts there to burn things down. And as you said, the longbows just took too much time to get here. And also, longbows, especially with the minimal numbers they have, they don't do that much damage against a huge group of horse archers. Heavy cavalry in there as well. And you also have Mista with some heavy cavalry lancers appearing on the field alongside the Mangodai. So not only is the fact that the longbows were slow to arrive, they are unable to deal with anything other than the horse archers. And of course, the numbers on the horse archers is just way too great here. And now you see towers being taken down, and as the towers go down, the villagers inside will fall. Bhakti is down to 44 villager count, but the concerning thing is that he's down to 3 armies. So there's just no heavy cavalry on the battlefield for them right now.
Yep, and it's still fine. You know, you're in feudal age. It's okay. LucinfroN and Backed are pretty much on the same level in that way, tech-wise at least. But yeah, the eco damage has definitely been done. And, well, their Sacred Victory is almost in play in this case. Those sites have been in control for quite a while with these armies just fighting around Backed's base. More firepower coming in for the Horsemen. And the green ACCM being able to put up a few more horse archers together in this blob, but they're stuck in the middle. They can't utilize this here to their advantage. Longbows, there's only a few of them. That is not much that you can do with, and there's no raiding happening on the other side of the map. Everybody's looking healthy. Everybody's looking good. Everybody's booming in their eco and producing constantly. How do you even recover from this? What's the play?
I don't think you do. Just look at the north. The villagers of Bhakti were also slaughtered, bunch of villagers running for their lives. At this point, Bhakti is at 29 population, all of them being villagers. And as you said, even the Sacred Site victory was triggered for a brief moment. Now ACCM is neutralizing and then taking 1 Sacred Site for himself. But behind this one, you have 5 relics working for VortiX, plus 2 Sacred Sites. And the most important thing, completely untouched economies. They haven't been harassed ever since LucinfroN lost those couple of vills. Whereas now Bhakti is pretty much out of this game for a long time. The only thing that they can do is have Bhakti slung, so he can at least make army and slowly recover. We have seen that being a thing, but it's going to be a very slow recovery, so they need a long game now to make it happen. The only saving grace could funnily be the English, because as slow as the English are, now they have a full eco build-up. But they need to make something happen. They pretty much need to knock out Mista as much as Bhakti was knocked out of this game.
Lita, I would love to see this, but imagine taking all of VortiX's horsemen, or, you know, even everything from the Mista, whatever he can put together, and just bashing into the eco of Cool. That would absolutely wreck and probably topple their opponents out of the game. You got to be real careful with how all this gets played out, and potential harassment in the next few minutes. Notably, the reaction looks like more onto Back, putting pressure on him, as seems to be the weakest player right now, as we've seen with those raids, with the big battle that happened just outside his base. And still, what does the economy even look like for back? He's at 34 eco with 10 idle villagers in the meantime. So no need for you to take the fight right now. Just keep on building up and building up. And maybe once you're close to, you know, your pop limit or even 150 pop, then you can push in for a decisive battle, which seems to be exactly what we're getting now.
Here come the horse archers. Not a lot of siege units over here, so taking out town center is no option, but they can just run past it, kill as many villagers as they can. And simultaneously, there is also Mista taking a great fight inside the base of Core. So once again, lack of mobility hurts so badly out there.
That is exactly what I was talking about. Go raid. We didn't see the Mista up the top by Back's base because he's going down to raid. The eco absolutely smashed. Cool is now down to 72 economy with half of it being idle. And they can't really do much to deal with this mix of Mangodai and Lancers. Now the longbows have to retreat back. There's a big fight in the horse archers going on between our blue and the green of VortiX and ACCM. You don't need to micro this fight. Just let them fight against one another. Too much micro might hurt. But there's longbows, there's crossbows, and they're coming in for support. Pull back, use your speed to your advantage, and keep that horse archer blob alive. Do not get too aggressive. Don't lose these now when they're going to be so important to close out the game.
ACCM is doing a nice job pushing back all of those horse archers on the left side. Bagdy's slowly building up his knight numbers, but he's a long way away from recovery. And as you see, LucinfroN just now reached Castle Age, so he's been playing full Feudal Age here to make sure he's got good knight numbers, and now he's sending a couple of knights towards the base of ACCM. He actually misses out on an otherwise fairly saturated berry patch. As you said, the horse archer numbers were very good there for ACCM. With the longbow support, they would have won against VortiX. So VortiX is going to pull all those forces to the right side and just take a fight where the longbows can't catch up.
Man, that's almost all the horse archers destroyed before the longbows and the crossbows can get into position. This is what I'm talking about. The speed of cavalry. It is so... I mean, the Romans learned this lesson. I'm not really seeing how this could get any better for VortiX and the team. And looks like he's just going to escape with the horse archers that he has left. He's pretty much decimated the green army at this point here at ACCM. And more raids that potentially could come down onto Cool. He's had to retreat his army back to base. He's got 78 military, but half of it is stuck in his own base. And in the meantime, Lancers, Mangonels, and even Attraction Trebuchet that have been set up from the Mista to fire down onto the White Tower.
And as you see, it's going to be a mixture of longbows and crossbows to hold this, but at this point, if Mista just plays a 1v1 here versus Cool, he's gonna be more than happy with that, because if Cool is forced to defend his own base, the other two players will be able to 2v1 ACCM right now, and it looks like in the middle we will have all the crossbows picked off, and if the crossbows go down, the knights will be able to just massacre all those longbowmen. This is once again a great fight for VortiX's team, also having the Saints' blessing on those horse archers with those warrior monks mixed in.
Mangonel even in the back firing into veteran longbowmen. They're just taking so much damage in the splash. They're just unable to do much damage to all of this artillery. But finally, at least the Mangonel will go down. But there's 3 trebuchets behind this firing into the White Tower. It's already on fire. It's going to be nigh impossible to save it here. With a couple of volleys, it should go down. All that's left is pretty much longbowmen, and they can't do much against all of that armor that the heavy lancers have. Mangodai are stepping into it, and the White Tower is close. How close is it? It's 600 HP left before it gets absolutely blown to smithereens. And Cool is running out of wood. He's got 100 wood left. He's just buying as much as he can, collecting whatever. He's down to pretty much 0. And now the White Tower is 1,000 HP left. He's at negative in wood. It's insufficient wood. That's not something you ever want to hear, chat. And that White Tower is going down. The last volleys are in, and the power position is out. Now you can be quite comfortable in swarming the rest of the longbow.
Exactly, you know your situation is bad when your wood count is negative. And up north, you already see another batch of horsemen coming in here for VortiX. And behind this, we haven't even talked about LucinfroN, who's been building up a fairly large mass of knights, ready to unleash them. They have constantly had 2 sacred sites, and now they're grabbing the 3rd one. Bakti, still a long way from recovery, 39 villagers only. Horse archers will be sent to take down these trebuchets, and they probably will. The biggest problem right now for ACCM is that the moment he pulls his Horse Archers, he's going to have his eco shattered, and the Mangonels will also do some work over here. More the work than I initially expected.
That's actually quite a few Horse Archers that have gone down, even more volleys that are in, fairly so. But yeah, it doesn't matter. This is just the army. This is not, the actual base. The production is keeping up, and in the meantime, VortiX is also raiding the economy of ACCM. He has a huge advantage in Horse Archers, and the fact that they're also present to harass. You're not in the economy of your opponents. TheMista is also packing up and going home with a lot of his own buildings, but somehow he's keeping up the pressure and actually pushing into Cool. Pretty much cleared up his entire army here and sending some units in for the raids. Those Horse Archers just did not stand a chance. Back will have to surrender. He doesn't have the ability to produce anymore, and that looks like it is done. 3-0 for los Pollos Hermanos, and they fry up another victory, ready to go into the semifinals.
Just a crazy performance from them. And we haven't even mentioned that in all of that carnage, Mista was able to get to Imperial Age. The individual skill on those players just really shined today, because it wasn't always them just combining their armies and taking good fights. It was more like one player doing his own thing, that was usually Mista, and he's doing it so well that the other two were just able to take down one player, usually Bhakti, in this matchup. Mista with 206 kills and 78 deaths over here. VortiX, 202 deaths, or 202 kills and 116 deaths. And keep in mind, he's been trading Horse Archers a lot, so if you would subtract the amount of Horse Archers he killed and lost, that would be an even better KD for him. LucinfroN 84-67 over here. The key thing was that they went very aggressive in that mid-late Feudal Age period. LucinfroN had a very late Castle Age timing, but that of course meant that he spent all of his resources on army, and his knight numbers were constantly better than the ones from Bhakti. And then of course, the lack of mobility for those longbows really hurt. They can be a very powerful unit to play with if you are the aggressor, but if you are defending, suddenly your opponents can always make a move at a position where the longbows aren't present, and that's exactly what we have seen. Bhakti's eco was just annihilated, while the longbows weren't able to support, and from that point on, it was just a 2 versus 3.
Okay, so are we ready to call something on the English in 3v3?
Oh, this is a tough one. I think they are a little too slow. So English only work if you're putting up insane amount of aggression. I think English can, in certain situations, work, but I don't think this double Townsender Longbowman play works, because the biggest problem right now is that the double Townsender play gives you a good eco, and you have the longbows, but if you're not actively attacking, if you're not spending every single bit of your resources on actual upgrades on units, then your teammates will just get triple teamed and get destroyed. We can see the English working as a flank civilization if you're very aggressive with them. Go longbows and support those longbows with a lot of early knights. I feel like the biggest problem here is that if you combine those longbows with professional scouts from the French, like we have seen, suddenly you don't have a lot of early damage potential and you turn into the defender instead of the aggressor.